All right, today we're going to be learning about the standard form of a parabola. Last time we did vertex form, but here's standard form, and you probably recognize it because you used it in Algebra 1 when you were doing the quadratic formula, which we'll do later, just not in this lesson. Okay, so to find the vertex when it's in standard form, you're first going to find the x-coordinate, or the h of the vertex, by taking the opposite of b over 2a. And you can say negative b, but I think if you say opposite b, you'll have less chance of making a sign mistake. So on the first one, let's identify our a, b, and c. So a is the number in front of the x squared, which is 1. B is the number in front of the x, which is -6, and c is the number at the end. We're not going to be using the c for these problems, but we will in the second part of our notes. So to find the vertex, we're first going to figure out what x is, or the h of the vertex, by taking the opposite of b, which is 6, over 2 times a, which is 1. So we have 6 over 2, which is 3. That's the x-coordinate of the vertex, and now we need to take that and plug that into our function so we can get the y-coordinate. So I'm going to have 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 10. 3 squared is 9 minus 18 plus 10. So 9 minus 18 is -9 plus 10, which just gives you 1. Okay, let's repeat it on the second one. A is 1, B is -8, C is 5. So to find the x-coordinate, or your h, it's going to be the opposite of b, which is 8, over 2 times a, which is 1. So we have 8 over 2, which is 4. So that's our x-coordinate. And now we need to take it and plug it into our equation so that we can find our y. So I'm going to plug in 4. 4 squared is 16. Minus 32 plus 5. So this is -16 plus 5, which is -11. Okay, let's try this again on the third one. Now we've got a number for a. So this is -2 for a, -8 for b, and 1 for c. So to find x, or the h-coordinate of the vertex, we're going to take the opposite of b, which is 8, over 2 times a, which is -2. So we get 8 over -4, which is -2. So now we need to plug that in. So we're going to find f of -2. So I have the -2 that starts with, and then the x. So I'm going to put in parentheses, I'm going to put -2 squared minus 8 times -2 plus 1. Okay, there's a lot of -2's. So let's start with this part. Because -2 is in parentheses, -2 squared is +4. And +4 times the -2 that's in front would give you -8. Over here, minus a negative, I'm going to make that plus a negative. Or, excuse me, just minus, I'm going to make a plus a negative. So -8 times -2 is +16 plus 1. So -8 and 16 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So there's my y-coordinate. All right, one last time. This would be 3, -12, 40. So x would be the opposite of b, which is 12, over 2 times a, which is 3. So, whoops. Wrote the wrong number. So I have 12 over 6 equals 2. So this is going to be 2. And now I need to find my y. So I'm going to find f of 2 by plugging in 2. So I have 3 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 40. 2 squared is 4, times 3 is 12. -12 times 2 is -24 plus 40. 12 and -24 is -12 plus 40. You get 28. Okay. Now on these, when we're not graphing them, don't worry about getting big numbers because it doesn't really matter. You don't have to graph them. When he goes to graph them, I'm only going to have numbers that fit reasonably on their graph. All right, let's try this again now. But now we're going to graph them. So the first thing we need to do is find the vertex. So the vertex, just like we did on the front, opposite of b, which would be +4, over 2 times a, which is 2. So we get 4 over 2, which is 2. Now we have to find the y. So I'm going to plug in to find y. So I have 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 8. 2 squared is 4. -4 times 2 is -8. Plus +8. Well, the 8's cancel, so I just get 4. So that's my vertex. The y-intercept, now I'm just going to write this out once. The y-intercept is when x equals 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So we have 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 8. Well, this part all over here is just zeros. So y equals 8. I could have gotten that right from the start, right? So our y-intercept is 0, 8. Now to graph these, last time we graphed it using a pattern. This is just a new approach. There's not one right or wrong way. This is just options. Okay, so the vertex is 2, 4. And because we know it starts with a positive, we know it's going to be opening up. Our our y-intercept is 0, 8. But we need a third point so we can find the symmetry. Well, as we know, the axis of symmetry runs down this way. And if something is a certain space is away from the axis of symmetry, it's got to match on the other side. So since this is 2 to the left, this has to be 2 to the right. And so we can make our graph. Let's try this again. Number 2, the vertex, to find the x, would be the opposite of b, which is 6, over 2 times a, which is 2. So we get 6 over 2, which is 3. Now we need the y-coordinates, so we're going to plug it in. So we have 3 squared minus 6 times 3 minus 1. So that's 9 minus 18 minus 1. So negative 1 minus 1, which is negative 10. Now for the y-intercept, we're plugging in x for 0. So all of this is 0, so it cancels out. So y just equals negative 1, so my y-intercept is 0, negative 1. This graph, again, is going to open up because it starts with a positive. On our other notes, we'll have a graph that opens down. Okay, so our vertex is 3, negative 10. Our y-intercept is negative 1. Now, for this parabola to work, it has to be symmetrical, and this is my axis of symmetry. And since this point is 3 spaces away to the left, my other point has to be 3 spaces to the right. And so here is my parabola. All right, one last one. Number 3, to get the vertex, the opposite of b would be negative 6 over 2 times a, which is 3. So we get negative 6 over 6, which is negative 1. So that's the x-coordinate of my vertex. The y, I got to plug it in. So I have 3 times negative 1 squared plus 6 times negative 1 minus 2. Negative 1 squared is positive 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6 minus 2. So that's negative 3 minus 2, which is negative 5. The y-intercept, I'm going to plug in x for 0. So all of this goes away. So y is just negative 2. So I have 0, negative 2. Okay, if I am graphing this, the vertex, negative 1, negative 5, is right here. My y-intercept is negative 2. All these graphs open up. In the other notes, we'll get some opening down. Here's my axis of symmetry. Because this point is 1 away, I've got to go 1 away in the other direction. And there is my parabola. That's it.